Hello everyone, Veronica here from Wedding Album Cafe, and today I'm going to show you a super quick way to change the background on your photos. We'll be using a brick texture to replace the background for this image, and if you'd like to try this technique, download the free texture pack on this post and follow along. This method works best when choosing photos that were shot against a solid background. You can see my before and after, and this is what we will be creating, so let's get started. To begin, I'm going to start by duplicating my image, and we'll do that by coming here to the History panel and just clicking on this button, and now we have a copy. So I will close my original, and we will be working on this copy. I'm going to drag this off onto my other screen so that it's out of the way. Okay, now it's time to open up our texture. So we'll go to File, Place, and then navigate to the folder that contains the texture that you want, and I'm going to choose this, select Place, and then I'll zoom out so that I can use my transform tool. I'll hold down my shift key. Remember to hold down your shift key so that you resize your image proportionately, and then just drag the little corner handles to fit the image to scale. Okay, that looks good. All right, now the next thing we'll do is add a layer mask. Let me zoom out, zoom in so you can see. And we'll add our layer mask. And next we'll grab a paintbrush. We have our foreground color set to black. And we're going to begin painting on our layer mask to reveal the image below. So make sure you have your layer mask highlighted. And then we will lower the opacity. I'm going to lower it to 45% so that we can see the image beneath. And I've zoomed in to about 200. I'm going to increase my brush size, and I do that just by holding down the right bracket key until I get a size that I like. And we're going to start just quickly erasing the inner area. We're going to save the edges for last, but erase as much as the inner area as you can without going over the edges. And we'll save smaller areas for last as well. So I'm just painting with a soft round brush, and my brush setting, I have a brush size of 70, and as you can see, my hardness is set all the way to 0. So I have no hardness on my brush. And I'm just erasing all of the brick texture. Now if I click on Alt-click, I can see my mask and what it looks like if I have any blank areas. So I think right here I'm going to paint a little bit more, and right there as well. And then I'll Alt-click to return to my original. Now I'm going to go in with a smaller brush so I can work on these edges. So I'll hold down my left bracket key and size my brush down smaller. You might want to zoom in a little bit more. So I've zoomed in to 300%, and then I'm just going to start brushing away these edges. Now it's okay to leave a little bit of the background against the image, because it'll look as if the background is actually shining through on your subject, but not too much, especially if you have patterns like these lines from these bricks here, because of course that would not appear on your subject. And you can see this really is actually pretty quick. Another method that you could use to do this, of course, would be to select this image or select your subject out of the background, but I find this to be a really quick way to add a background without having to do that. Okay, now we will paint back his beads. This picture reminds me of Owen Wilson in Zoolander. He had that kind of bohemian vibe going on. Okay, so I'm going to decrease my brush size so I can get these small areas of beads. And now I'm going to do the arm. I'm going to lower this a little bit more so I can see what his arm actually looks like, because it's kind of in the shadows. Okay, and I'll bring that back up to 42%. Now, we have successfully changed our background image. Now at this point, depending on the background that you chose, you may want to go ahead and bump your opacity back up again. But you can see that as you do that, because we used a very soft brush, he is feathered on the edges. So you're not going to want your opacity set at 100%. So I'm going to just lower it back down until I find something that I like. And quite frankly, I liked it at around 42%. Because what I'm going to do next is duplicate this layer. And I'm going to, because it looks a little bit flat, I'm going to go ahead and bump it up a little bit by going to my filters. Now make sure that you click on the image itself as opposed to the mask, because we're going to be applying this filter to the actual background itself. So we'll go to Filter, Render, Lighting Effects, and here I have created a preset. What I've done is I've created several different presets for the upper left, right, because as we can see, this is where our light source is coming from. So I have upper left 1, which is just a more subtle lighting from the top left. Upper left 2, a little more subtle, and then I liked for this particular image number 3, and click OK. And as you can see, it instantly added some light to our background. But what I'm going to do is set my layer mode to multiply, and then that gives it a really nice rich look, and I'm pretty happy with that. Since we duplicated this layer, what happened is that the portions that we previously erased have now become a little bit more opaque. So you may need to come back in and erase some of that out again. So once again, we'll add our brush tool, Now click back on your layer mask and begin painting that out, because you can see the red of the brick in his skin. So we'll just paint that out. And if you find that you have erased a little bit too much, you just come here, set your foreground color back to white, and erase it back out again. Okay, let's zoom back out and take a peek, and that looks fantastic. Okay, but I believe that you can always improve your image just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is bump up my curves a tad, just to bring a little bit more light. And then I'm going to take my background image, duplicate it, and set it to screen. Then I'm going to lower the opacity. I like that at 20%. Now I'm going to flatten this image. Go to Layer, Flatten. And now what I'm going to do is add just a little bit of texture. I'll go to File, Place, and then I'm going to add a texture. Now this is from my Depth and Warmth texture set. So I'm going to place that, zoom out, and I'm going to, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to rotate that, and then hold down my Shift key once again, scale it to size. Double click on the inside of the image to set it, or just press Enter on your keyboard. And now I'm going to set this layer to Hue, and I'm going to give, you see how it gives it a nice sepia tone? But I'm going to adjust the opacity way back to about 40%. That looks great. Now you see the difference. There's a lot more red without the texture, and then with it. Now I'm just going to zoom into his skin and make sure that the texture looks good across his skin, because sometimes textures can give skin an odd effect, but this looks pretty good. But what I will do is come in here with my eraser brush and just erase out the eyes. I'm going to rasterize this layer so that I can actually work on it, decrease my brush size, and then paint that texture out of his eyes. Now I'll bump up my curves just one last time. And that is our completed image. Just flatten, layer, flatten, and then save as a high quality JPEG. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Of course, any questions or comments, post them in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.